Hello and welcome to Wildseed. Once upon a time, in the oldest corners of China, the door to the underworld opened wide. A bunch of demons went on a spree into the land of the living, the occasional wealthy merchant. Scared out of his wits, he decided to hire demon hunters. The cadre of hunters was like a mariachi choir, after 5 tequilas, all speaking louder than the other. But among them, Jade, a mercenary sharper than a barber's razor, caught a funny whiff. She sensed that something or someone was crashing the party uninvited. She drew her weapon and threw it at the door. Wham! But he only hit poor monk Tong, who had come to help in the task of hunting down the demon. The monk, throwing the dogs at Jade, was throwing compliments like someone throwing confetti, but the girl only wanted to find the whereabouts of the demon. And then, as in the league final, the bells began to ring. The ground split in two, as if it were a loaf of dead bread, and the demon made its grand entrance. The hunters, their faces whiter than hospital underpants, tried to tackle the beast with their magic knickknacks, but the demon ate them up like popcorn. But the demon, with all attitude, jumped out of the river, carrying Tom stuck to him like gum on his shoe. Donk, clinging to the creature like a limpet, struggled to control the demon, but the enemy was more powerful, and with one blow sent Tonga to the ground. At that moment Jade arrived, who had stayed 2 blocks away drinking fresh water with her friend. They came up with a plan to ambush the beast. She would aim at its eyes, and the other would tickle it from behind. The critter roared, swallowing the humans. Tong, with every intention of helping, got in the way, and the jade arrow headed for the monster's eyes. Whack! It hit Tongue in the butt. He fell to the ground next to an old lady who, with more bad blood than habanero chili, gave him a slap. Jade approached the critter again and ripped out its spine to hang it on her fourth. Tonks, using her little magic tricks, turned the demon into dust, leaving only the bones. The next day, Jade returned to her little house, far from the bustle of the city. There she began to extract the juice from the spinal column with a small machine. It turned out that she had been looking for her reincarnated better half for almost 1,000 years and only needed one last ingredient for her love cocktail. Jade dropped the bombshell. She was actually a sky goddess, a sort of champa given to her to take care of the tree of immortality and harvest its fruits. It wasn't long before she found her better half, who turned out to be Tonks. The two had a hug and a golden movie kiss. What they didn't realize was that with so much cuddling, they were dropping the fruits of the tree of immortality. By the time they realized it, they had wasted more fruit than a fruit cart on a steep street. The gods and goddesses of the neighborhood gathered in the place, and the boss was furious with the lovebirds for ruining her party. The idea was for the gods to have a taco with the fruits that only grow every 3,000 years, no more and no less. Determined to teach them a lesson for their carelessness, she made them take a shot of tequila of oblivion and sent it to the human world falling from the sky to be reincarnated as a so-and-so. But the goddess was not about to forget her boy. She dropped from the sky with her memories intact, but took with her the curse of not recognizing her love in her next life. Through a string of reincarnations, the goddess remained an old maid unable to recognize her love, even when they were rivals in a wrestling ring. After all these years of ordeal, she finally had the chance to find her better half. Later, in the early morning while Tom was taking a walk in the woods, he saw a gang of people going in the opposite direction, among them a bunch of cool old ladies. They were in wagons. A cool woman dressed in green. He gave Tonk the eye and remembered a previous encounter. It turns out that Tan had gotten into a fistfight with a dragon in the past, managing to get the beast under a Buddha statue, but one of his sons had managed to escape before the stone fell on him. Don noticed the move, but instead of fucking the snake, he decided to give the demon a chance, taking it for a ride away from the site. The woman, upon seeing her savior after so long, realized she owed him a tamale. The demons finally arrived at a massive palace where they ran into their dad, the dragon chief. The guy wanted to know if his master plan had worked. Turns out they were trying to charm the emperor with their charm, with the idea of controlling him and having all the humans as servants. But when they tried to give the king a poisoned taco, a powerful energy kicked them back when it detected their demonic vibe. The head of the dragon demons realizes they need to change tactics. They need a real human to romance the emperor and make him swallow the poison that will allow them to have him at their mercy. The demons showed their true face, abominations who plan to suck innocent children to maintain their immortality. The next day, Tonk's masters are trying to shave my head as if I owe them money, but their blades shatter to shreds, Al, crashing against the hard scalp of the porcupine-like man. Tom wonders why he's having such a hard time becoming a real monk. And one of his teachers, a certain Kong. He thinks Ton must have offended the heavens in his past life to be suffering so much with that he tries to get Tong to pray to the gods, but all the statues turn their backs on him, showing their anger at him and leaving him more confused. He goes to pray to Guan Yin, the goddess of mercy, and she is the only one who responds by telling him that he must take down a one-eyed demon to discover the truth of his past. Before Tom can understand what the goddess told him, the head of the monastery bursts into the room and sees that all the statues are turning their backs to him. He demands to know who it was that dared to desecrate his temple and soon discovers that it was Tong, which causes all the monks to jump on him and beat him to a pulp. It turns out that the monks had been hired by a wealthy woman who had come to the temple to pray for a son. She is furious at the delay in her ritual and orders her henchmen to punish the master. Please, if you're enjoying the video, show it with your precious like, for you it's just a second and you help me a lot. The soldiers rush at Kong and hit him in the head, from which a bright light comes out. Suddenly, the clouds gather and release a bolt of lightning that strikes Kong, transforming him into a giant monster that towers over everyone. The roaring beast scares everyone to death and sends the soldiers flying like ragdolls. Then the creature grabs the head monk and throws him through the ceiling like a fly. Tonk does not believe that his master has become a demon, but the old man explains to him that he is actually the reincarnation of the protagonist's brother. In heaven, he came down from heaven to the neighborhood, compadre, with that compa who did not stop suffering. He couldn't bear to see him like that. And it turns out that one of those scary but endearing creatures starts playing like a pirate DVD in my buddy's head, reminding him of things from his past, like that girl he had that the gods punished. And here between us, poor Tony was bewitched and can't recognize his girl even if he runs into her on the corner of the Tianguis. But his teacher, that smart old man, reminded him that he had to finish with that one-eyed scoundrel just as the goddess of good vibes asked him to do so he could recognize his girlfriend. What they didn't expect was that the Chingon of the cursed dragon would realize that he was there. The bad Vato gives the monk the eye at once and blames him for leaving him on the Buddha statue as if he were a caged parakeet for 1,000 years. He wants to get even with Tong and orders his daughters to take his bitch away to do his thing. But here comes the rub. The snake's daughter gets a little emotional because she finds it hard to mess with the one who rescued her. After a while, a girl who is called Furiosa's mustache because she is very tough, arrives in a small town and goes to eat in a small shop. What? Who do you think runs it? Well, the monk. It's soon discovered that the guy is faker than a $3 bill. He doesn't even know how to make a quesadilla, and the mustachioed guy becomes like a bull in a china shop and turns into a monster. But their soap opera is interrupted when a giant rock falls on the woman's face. They look up at the ceiling, and lo and behold, there's a creature bigger than the foreign debt, watching them from above, and the beast grabs one of the women and eats her. Everyone runs away while the Cyclops goes crazy and starts to make a mess of the papaya. And then the Jade arrives with the desire to take the eye of the beast and tells his buddy to take it in the forest from below while the monster is busy bullying the soldiers. The Bato grabs the warriors and eats them as if they were pork rinds in green sauce, but fortunately, the hunter manages to put it in pause mode, giving the race a chance to attack. The mustached one goes all out on the monster, trying to leave him one-eyed with her knives, but Jade gets in the way because she needs the beast's eye with the distraction. The mustached one is taken by the Cyclops, who is ready to make a carnita asada with her. But alas, the paisanos rescue her in time because the beast throws her like an empty beer can, and there goes Tonga, reaching out to grab her in the air, but when they see each other, they both make a "I don't like you one bit" face. Meanwhile, Jade goes full steam ahead to confront the monster, but Tonks saves her from a tug. When the monster gets a hand on her, Tonks uses her porcupine hairdo to get out of the way as she throws him into the sky. It lands on some sharp rocks and oh boy, the family jewels are at stake. The gang flees as the Cyclops follows, forcing them to jump into a ditch and hide from the mob. Seeing Tonks' mane over there, they think of using him as an arrow and begin to stretch him with ropes to throw him like an angry feathered bird. Tonk goes all out at the monster, pierces the bug, and kills it on the spot, getting nailed to the ground. Jade goes to the Cyclops and takes out his eye, and while the others make a face like I'm going to puke, the girl takes her trophy to her lair, they follow her to her cave, and Jade tells them to stay to sleep because they helped her with the monster. The woman goes straight to her chunchi and puts in the last ingredient, and the eye starts throwing images as if it were an old projector, showing how it was real. Her girlfriend enters and sees all the images and realizes that the girl in front of her is the one she has been looking for. They stare at each other, and after 1,000 years of being separated by the gods, they give each other the kind of hug that takes your breath away. But in that sweet time, the dragon demon appears with his daughters looking to take revenge for the affront with the monk. They immediately go for the jugular, and Tom has to juggle to protect his brunette and defend himself from the demon's magical attack. There is the mustachioed woman who sees him and jumps into the fray, confronts the demon's daughters, and the fight is evenly matched. The woman climbs on its back like a skateboard and goes after the cat demon, while the other critter throws a shower of nets at it. With a lot of skill, she manages to ambush the monster in a building, cornering it on a bridge. The mustached one rains swords on the enemy, who tries to dodge the attacks, but in the end gets slapped and falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Maiden continues to play with the dragon demon. Jade's friend tries to go all out on the demon, but he quickly dispatches her, sending her flying to the other side of the room. The monk wants to leave on his own at once, but the demon applies a spell that sends him into the wall, lying on the floor. Jade sees him and jumps into the ring, but the dragon demon flies her out as well. The demon goes to the bridge and sees that his daughter has been fried by the mustache, while the woman throws a bunch of knives at him. but the demon stops them in their tracks and returns the rain of steel to the girl by making a few punctures in her tummy. And so she says goodbye to the world. The monster spider grabs Ton and carries him out of the building, while the dragon demon puts the duck on top of him and pokes him with its nails. Jade runs out and begs the demon to spare the monk's life, promising to do whatever it takes. The demon instructs his daughter to give him a poisonous bug to swallow, and if Jade doesn't listen to the demon, the bug will begin to eat her from the inside. The demon tells her that she is now his. He laughs as if he were the Joker. He leaves with his daughters and leaves Tom lying on the floor. Jade has to go into the palace and dance for the king, and the man falls for her charms and makes her one of his concubines. Meanwhile, where he is having a hard time with his wounds and his master tries to ease his pain, but with little luck, as the man seems to be on his last legs. What they didn't expect is that the snake demon shows up at the temple when the old man has left and decides to release his spiritual energy, which was originally meant for his dad. He blows his energy into the monk's mouth and lets him know where his bitch is so that he can go and prevent his father from continuing to do evil deeds. Soon, Dawn begins to hear the voice of the goddess of mercy and stands in front of her statue to receive her advice. The goddess tells him that he has to regain his powers to face the dragon and that the only way to do it is with the breath of a loved one, which leaves the monk half confused. Meanwhile, the king is getting ready for some nighttime exercise with his new concubine, and the dragon demon is watching everything from his magic mirror. Jade asks the emperor to close his eyes and start blowing a little mind control device into the air. But before she can poison the king, the woman changes her mind and tells the emperor all about the dragon demon's plan. That gets on the demon's nerves, and he goes off to beat the drums and wakes up the insect inside Jade, causing her horrible pain as it begins to devour her from the inside. The spider demon then sneaks into the palace to kill the king herself, as Jade has burned them the plan. But immediately a bunch of soldiers enter the building and surround the monster. The demon doesn't mince its words and launches itself at the people, rolling them against each other, and takes them all out with its claws. In no time at all, the whole army rushes into the building trying to save the king, forcing the dragon demon to drop the drums and fly to the battlefield. The guy falls to the ground and throws a soldier into the air, focusing all his power against the troop, and in a jiffy the whole army is reduced to dust. Meanwhile, the spider demon grabs the king, and just before it can kill him, Tom arrives with his master to save the emperor. The monster focuses on the monk, while Tom summons his weapon and sends the demon against the wall. Wow, Don and his old master were in a bind. That enemy was moving like a spider just out of its cave. But there was Tong, as if he were a matador, with his sword dodging and counterattacking, as if his life depended on it. And in fact, he was going right when the master turned into a creature from a horror movie like Godzilla on Sunday afternoon. They hit him so hard that the fall echoed throughout the building, and Tong was there, trying to regain his strength in a strange way. But well, each one with his own methods planted several kisses to Jade, but there was no way, not a spark, nothing. And so, he decided to put his feet on the ground with the girl. When he left, he saw the teacher losing to the demon like a neighborhood soccer team against the national team, and things went from bad to worse. Tom tried to get in on the play, but he received a blow that sent him to the bench. The devil! He handled the teacher like a piñata. Jade also wanted to play the heroine, but ended up more squashed than a turkey in a moving truck. In his last breath, the teacher tried to hit the demon, but it was more like a chihuahua trying to bark at a pit bull. In the end, the demon ended up realizing that the little old man had indeed hurt him. Like when you realize that green sauce does sting, and he runs to his daughter for a spiritual band-aid. But surprise! She had already given it to Tonka on the other side, where he was there holding Jade while she made him promise to meet again in the next life. Very drama, very 90s novel. And in between sobs and kisses, Tom gets his powers back like a last-minute Super Saiyajin. It turns out that what Tonka needed was not just any breath, but the last breath of his beloved. How poetic of him. Meanwhile, the demon turns into a giant dragon so monstrous it would make the one in the Game of Thrones logo look like a puppy. The snake daughter, seeing that, tries to get the hell out of there, but ends up being food for her own father. Circle of life, right? Suddenly, Dawn is filled with energy and transforms into the Golden Warrior, as if he just drank a family-sized can of Red Bull. He counters the dragon and starts cloning himself like he's in a fighting video game on easy mode. Finally, he orders his clones to gather and dodges his opponent's attacks and suddenly turns into a golden dragon that roars at the enemy like a mariachi after 3 tequilas. Dawn lunges at the monster's neck as if it were a baby stunt wrestler, throwing it to the ground with a force that would make the Hulk himself blush. But the dragon demon, more stubborn than a mule, gets up and takes a bite out of our hero, smashes him to the ground and chops him to pieces as if he were chopping onions to make a taco al pastor. But Tonk, as a good protagonist, regenerates quickly and transforms again. This time he seems to have eaten all of Popeye's spinach because he becomes a huge warrior, stronger than fryer grease. The demon goes on the attack and they both leap into the air, but Tonk, with an agility worthy of the best wrestling wrestler, lands crushing the enemy. He punches the demon in the mouth, sending him flying as if he had taken a bite out of a habanero bell pepper. Tonga lands back on the ground and goes back to being human after defeating the demon and taking a selfie to show off on the interwebs. He runs to Jade, but sees her vanish into dust. Sadder than the end of a Disney movie. The goddess of mercy appears and offers Tonk to return to heaven, but Tom refuses as a good rebel because he knows he won't be able to see his beloved in the afterlife. The goddess takes pity and turns Jade into a bird so that she will always be with him. It seems that the goddess has seen too much ghost, the shadow of love. Tonga thanks the goddess like it's the best telemarketing gig of the year and sets off on his new adventure to protect humans from evil. Like a neighborhood hero, with the spirit of his beloved flying by his side. And so the tale comes to an end with more twists and turns than a Mexican soap opera. But the adventure doesn't end here. I wait for you in the next one. Let's go!